In this podcast, I would like to talk about abstract intelligence. So maybe the best way to do it is to study Spearman's method. Why? Because he was in fact the first who invented a type of tests that was entirely non-verbal. So a lot of geometry. Normally, everybody should be familiar with these shapes. And we can say that they are now related to education. And of course, it's possible to find them in every culture. So one of his students was Raven, and we know that he created the progressive matrices. So they were progressive because it was from easy to difficult items. But I would like to see one point, why it's so important to avoid something which is verbal. If we want to study how the human brain can catch the picture and realize the depth of the idea beyond the shape, it's important to avoid language with the usual way we define it. So something which is more close to the mind and less to the language, to use the terms of Chomsky, and maybe is a way to be more efficient and to understand in a better way the problem of the high J loading. So some examples. If you want to test someone with several tests, you can choose many. But if we want to see exactly how they are high J loaded or not, it's important to have some numbers in your mind. So for example, if we see that the matrix relations as a problem, as a test, in fact, they have the highest J load. So we have also generalizations. We have also series completion, of course, verbal analogies, likeness relations, problem arithmetic, paragraph comprehension, and of course, perceptual analysis. All these tests have a high J load. So today, I don't like the low J loading as an expression, but I want to see only the high J loading system of Spearman. So the idea is the following. If we use these tests, we can find some laws. So he called them noegenetic law, the first, the second, and the third. So for the first, it was an apprehension of experience. The second one is eduction of relations. And the last one is addiction of correlates. When we did some tests and we create others, we have in mind that it's very important to see the core of the mind. So maybe some details of language which are belonging to philology are problematic. So if you consider only geometric shapes and no number, just shapes, what we can say about the human brain? It seems obvious that there is a process of pattern recognition. We can see it, of course, in the matrix relations. So we have some items, we have some several choices, and we have to choose the best one in relation with the data. The idea is how in an abstract picture, our brain finds something which is important. Maybe singularities, maybe umbilical points, maybe bifurcations, something which is special. So what is special? Maybe something which is non-normal. So it reminds me another theorem of Riemann about singularities. But if you have a picture, what is important? Important for our memory or for our intelligence? Maybe for our memory, we don't need the same things. So for intelligence, a singularity is very important because it's a characteristic or local, maybe global, of the picture. So you see a picture, you see shapes, and you want to see something else. What? You see, for example, a chessboard. What do you see? Squares, white, black, their relations, or just a frame. So for me, a way to study this is to say that the initial data are just a picture, something which is static. If you want to see something which is like a dynamics of the process, you have to understand the way it was done. So you have something which is static, geometry. You can have also combinatorics in relations. But as an abstract intelligence, you can see that you have what? Vertices, so the small shapes, and edges, which in fact are representing what? The relations. So for abstract intelligence, you have to consider in reality a graph. So for each vertex, you have to see what is important as a detail in the global picture. So can be what? A line, a curve, a secret number, another shape which reminds you another one, something which is simple, but not too simple, enough simple to have some complex system inside it? Maybe. So the choice. Sometimes when you have to solve a problem with several choices, a rather efficient way to do it is in fact to delete some bad choices. But in fact, I prefer for abstract intelligence to give only the data with no choices. So you have to find not the best one between several choices, but the right answer. And the point of view is totally different because you have nothing more than the initial data, and you have to find everything there. So your brain, in fact, is obliged to see every detail and to compose with them. So imagine that you have a score for music and you have only the first notes and you want to find the next step. Maybe it's possible if there is a pattern, a leitmotif, but sometimes it's impossible, even if we know the composer. So now imagine you don't know the composer, you have only 3 shapes. You want to find The fourth, you have no choices. You have to find everything inside this abstract system. It means in reality that the problem has inside it its solution. So imagine now that we interpret this problem in another way, and we can say that the solution is coded inside the problem, but it was erased. Maybe by oblivion, we don't care. But in fact, there is some robustness. You have only 3 shapes and you can find the 4th. So it means that there is some redundance about information, because it's possible to recreate the information. And it reminds me also DeepMind with AlphaGo, when we gave it some famous opening in chess. And in fact, it has to find them again without any information about the theory. And in fact, he did it. So for us, abstract intelligence is able to break the code of the picture and to show that in reality, the solution is already in the problem. So it looks like a capsule. You have to find a way to decipher the code and to create the solution, which will be at the end of the process the best choice of the several choices in a classical test. If we are doing that, in fact, we force the human brain to think in a more abstract way and to realize that it does not need any more information to solve the problem. So, as an application for more general problems, imagine that you have some data, for example, in geopolitics. You have also, of course, history, and you want to find the next step. In fact, you want to forecast the future. Is it possible to define this problem as the previous one and say, maybe if the problem is, for example, high G-loaded, it's possible that the solution is already inside, and in fact, you see what you get, and you don't get what you see. First, you get something which is not obvious. So this is the abstract process of the discovery. But imagine now that someone else who doesn't know you got just the answer. He will say that you find this answer with a high probability because you already knew it. For example, with an analogy. But in fact, no, it's only the way you see the picture as a code. And in fact, you find the key. So to summarize the ideas is, I have a picture. I transform this picture as a code, and I find the key of the code inside the code, because with my abstract intelligence, in fact, I break the code. So I create another key, a copy of the initial problem, which is sufficient to solve the problem. So in reality, abstract intelligence doesn't see pictures, but break codes with artificial keys. That's all.